Welcome to my channel. Coming to you to motivate, educate, and inspire you with helpful tips through weekly videos. Bringing you principles to help you activate your faith, walk in your purpose, and be effective in ministry and the marketplace. We'll talk about all things faith, family, and business. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. What's up, guys? I want to bring you today some practical tips from relatability, talking about the gas tank. All right. Our lesson today is titled, Don't Wait Until the Tank is Empty. I don't know about you, but I'm not fond of getting gas. I know I need it to get around, but I'm always ripping and running so much that normally it's like, it feels like I don't have time to stop, or I don't want to stop. Or if you're like me, I'm almost in disgust every time I have to get gas. I'm counting the days like, wait a minute, last time I was filling up every 5 days. Now it feels like it's every 4 days, right? I have to take into account where I'm going, all of the trips I'm making, and all of that. But I wanted to talk to you today about this concept and connect it with character. But before we talk about character, I want to tell you some reasons why it's bad to let your tank run on empty. It can damage the fuel pump, it can clog the fuel filter, and it can cause your engine to misfire. According to some research, 32% of drivers wait until their gas light turns on to fill up their tanks. Why do people put off getting gas? Well, two main reasons: money and time. 30% said they don't have enough money for a full tank, or they are searching for cheaper gas. 26% are busy. They're too busy to fill up their tank, or they think stopping is inconvenient. All right. So money and time, they think it's inconvenient. And so before I bring you some relatability about why waiting until your gas tank is on empty and connecting that with character development, I just want to talk to you a little bit about character. All right. And so a person's character is who they really are. You have your reputation. That's what people say about you. But a person's character is who they really are. I talk to my son a lot about character. This past school year, thank God it is over. We had an issue with teacher. We've never had an issue like this. And I had to constantly tell my son, your character will speak for you. Your character will speak for you. There was a lack of instruction on this particular teacher's part. And it's sad because my son is in the optional program, and there's supposed to be more rigor. But there wasn't much rigor. She spoke most of the school year about retiring, but it's like, you're not retired yet. You still work here. These children still need you to pour into them. I had to sit down and have a meeting with the principal and the assistant principal about things that were being said about my child. I mean, just all of these things. And I finally had to tell him, let your character speak for you. Carry yourself and live your life in such a way that other people would say, who are you talking about? Oh no, couldn't be. Oh no, couldn't be. All right. And so I teach my son that. A.W. Tozer says this: the excellence of moral beings. That's what character is, the excellence of moral beings. But just know that people with character are noted for their ethics, their honesty, and their charity. A lack of character points to moral deficiency. These people are usually unethical, dishonest, and uncharitable. Our character is influenced and developed by our choices. It is. Godly character results from Holy Spirit's work of sanctification. Just know that God will use trials to strengthen character.
Romans chapter 5, verses 3 and 4. God is pleased when we grow in character and we have integrity. 1 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 17. Psalm chapter 15, verses 1 and 2. All right. And maybe you want to know how we can develop godly character. All right. How we can develop godly character. There's a few ways. We can control our thoughts, guard our hearts. We can practice Christian virtues. We can keep good company. All right. So for more on those particular things, check out my Instagram feed or follow me on Threads for more of that. All right. You'll see the links in the description. Men and women of godly character will set a good example for others to follow, and their godly reputation will be evident to all of those around them. All right. Titus chapter 2, verses 7 and 8 says it this way. In everything, set them an example by doing what is good. In your teaching, show integrity, seriousness, and soundness of speech that cannot be condemned, so that those who oppose you may be ashamed because they have nothing bad to say about us. All right. They have nothing bad to say about us. And this particular section is called Doing Good for the Sake of the Gospel. Doing good for the sake of the gospel. And I just want to pause parenthetically right there and say that doing good is actually action. It's doing, right? But this action is more internal than it is external. I think I'll say that again. This action is more internal than it is external. There are some external things that we can do, but there's some internal work that needs to be happening. Some things that need to be happening on the inside of us. All right. So just know that character is the aggregate of a person's ethical and moral qualities and is demonstrated through the different choices that we make. A person with godly character is morally and ethically upright. This doesn't mean that this person won't have missteps, but this person is always striving to take the moral road. And when they recognize that they have done something wrong, they do what is necessary to get back on track. I want to tie this in, talking about character and looking at an empty gas tank. I want to talk about character development today. All right. So the first thing that I want you to do so that you don't have character deficiencies, flaws, if you will, you need to be filling your heart with goodness. Filling your heart with goodness. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says it this way. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. All right. And looking at that example, I want you to think about the damage that can be done to your fuel pump when you don't fill up. All right. So this is that fuel pump example. You want to be filling your heart with goodness. You want to be filling your heart with goodness. All right. So we don't want damage to the fuel pump, right? We don't. So the same is that we should be filling our heart with goodness. So just as waiting too long to fill your gas tank can damage the fuel pump, neglecting to nurture your character can lead to spiritual harm. When we allow our hearts and our minds to remain empty of the goodness, wisdom, and guidance of God, we become vulnerable to negative influences and destructive behaviors. Failing to consistently refuel our character with God's truth and righteousness can result in spiritual damage, leading to a weakened foundation and a diminished ability to live according to His will. All right, next, I talked about waiting too long, waiting until we're on empty, the damage that it can do to the gas tank. It can clog the fuel filter. So in spiritual term, we want to be filtering out negativity. So I want to read you a verse from Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think on such things. So, similar to how waiting too long to get gas can clog the fuel filter, allowing negative influences to accumulate, it can hinder our character development. All right. So just as a fuel filter helps to keep impurities out of the engine, our character requires filtration to prevent negative thoughts, attitudes, and influences from hindering our growth. Neglecting to filter out negativity can result in clogging our hearts and minds, making it difficult to discern God's truth and leading to a compromised character. We must actively, y'all hear me? Actively guard ourselves against negative influences and consciously choose to fill our lives with that which is true, that which is right, that which is pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy. All right. The third reason we don't want to let our gas tank end up empty. We want to avoid engine misfire. All right. Because engine misfire is one of those things that could happen. So I want you to make sure you're firing on all cylinders. Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23 say it this way. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. All right. So we want to be firing on all cylinders. So just as running on empty can cause an engine to misfire, neglecting character development can hinder our ability to live out God's purposes fully. When our spiritual tank is empty, our character may misfire, causing us to stumble in our faith and fail to live in alignment with God's plan. Without consistently refueling our character through prayer, studying the Word, and actively applying biblical principles, we risk running on fumes, leading to compromised integrity, weakened resilience, and a diminished ability to reflect the fruits of the Spirit. We maintain a full spiritual tank, we can fully engage in God's purposes, allowing His love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control to guard our thoughts, our actions, and our interactions with each other. And that's important. I don't know if you understand just how important that is. All right. And so you're probably wondering now, wow, how do I do these things? How do I do these things? All right. I don't want to let my gas tank get down to empty. Well, you do this by tending to your character. You don't want to run on empty. Tend to your character, all right? So character development. How can you do this? How can you do this? The first way is you can commit to daily spiritual refueling. So I want you to prioritize your spiritual well-being by committing to daily practices that refuel your character. This can include setting aside dedicated time for prayer, studying the Bible, meditating on God's word, okay? It is important that you have consistency and understand that the transformational power of these practices, it can shape your character. All right, number 2, I want you to identify and remove negative influences, right? So identify negative influences that are in your life and take intentional steps to remove or minimize their impact. This could involve evaluating your media consumption, evaluating your relationships or your habits, that hinder your character development. So I want to encourage you to seek positive and uplifting influences, such as engaging in wholesome friendships, reading inspiring literature, listening to uplifting music that aligns with biblical principles. All right. Number 3, cultivate accountability and community. I want to stress the significance of accountability and community in character development. I want to encourage you to find an accountability partner or a small group to join where you can openly discuss your character goals, challenges, and progress.